So this is where all the magic happens. We have lots of things that I've saved from Cuppy throwing out. Blood and bone, radio, lights, welding gear. I could stay actually for days in here. Nobody knows where I am. This is where all the seed potting goes on, and this is my frame, which I've plug out, for my Father's Day gift, which doesn't actually fit in there properly, but that'll... What are you doing? Okay, let's go and have a look at the compost. I haven't put anything new in the compost for weeks and weeks. The last time we looked at the compost, it was definitely wintry, and it was in steamy mode, and I was trying to capture the steam coming off it. So compost, apparently, according to YouTube, goes through 5 phases. The 3rd phase was the heat phase, the 4th phase is the cooling down phase, and the 5th phase is the worms. Look, if that is not quality worms. All the compost is, well, apart from that bit there, is broken down to something that doesn't resemble its original constituent parts. It's cold, it's nice and crumbly, it's moist, and it's got lots of wiggler worms in there. Compost has gone well. Onto the plants.
Okay.
So this is how the experiment gardening this year started. This is the potato tower, particularly American idea. Last time I think we saw it, there was potatoes growing at the top. We have subsequently got potatoes growing out the side down the bottom, so it hasn't all rotted like I feared. However, given that there's probably about 24 to 36 different bits of potato in here, I think most have rotted. And it's interesting, they're really only growing out this side which gets the sun, so I'm guessing that they are drawn to the surface by the warmth. It certainly wouldn't necessarily be the light, because it will be dark on all sides. So they're tired, they're knackered. They're worn out potatoes, they need a rest. 2 things might happen when this is finished. We may have a splendid amount of potatoes that feel stressed by the lack of nutrients and just make lots of tubers, or actually we could get nothing. It's going to be very exciting. Moving on. Okay, with the help of my intrepid photographer, we've moved into the nature area, which is misnamed really on the grounds that this is the fenced off bit the chickens can't get. Again, given the amount of time they've been around, that's the mulch, straw mulch sprouting. Not much has happened actually. These things should be about here by now, given the amount of time. Again, really rubbish soil. This is a very cheap $3 mulch from $3 soil from Bunnings, and the bit where it said ready for fertilising on the packet suggests that actually it's really bad soil. So I think again we'll either get absolutely nothing out of it, or we'll get a lot of tubers on the basis that the plant thinks it's crap and it's going to wait for next year. We've got the onions going well, just about the seed. These are all grown from the cut off bottoms of onions we bought at the store. We haven't had, the ones I've harvested so far haven't been too bad, but they tend to be more leek-like than onions. Bit of cabbage, bit of parsley. This of course is my caterpillar feeding station. It's quite possible that this Brussels sprout won't turn into anything. Obviously some more lettuce. And finally the sweet peas seem to be growing upwards. And here, for a bit of exotica, are the fruiting buds on the mango. So we may actually get some mango flowers shortly. Now your average mango grows bigger than a Moreton Bay fig, which will be huge. So this is going to have to be extensively bonsai'd. So here we have the daffodil.
It's broken.
It's not broken. Will be if you do that to it. Beautiful. Does it smell?
I don't know, I haven't smelled it. A little bit.
Cool.
It smells nice.
We're in the front garden. Bit of rain coming apparently, but you wouldn't know it at the moment. So this was the original bed of potatoes. We still have one here. The netting, while it is to protect it from the bush rat, which completely chewed the foliage off the other 2. We pulled them a couple of weeks ago, which I didn't record, but one was rubbish. The other one gave us a really good crop of about 1.4 kilos of Pontiacs, which we had as a potato salad and roast. It was really good. So on this side I've still got the potatoes that I'm going to let die off. which should be Pontiacs, and then in here I've planted a couple of spirals of heritage carrots, which we will then bring on, and then once these are pulled out I'll probably put a tomato in there. This magnificent thing is last year's passion fruit. You can see the passion fruit flower there, and buzzing around everywhere is the stingless bees. They've been really weird. They're in many cases getting into the buds before they even open and fertilising it. So this one here, for example, which is obviously a passion fruit forming, didn't even flower. There was another one, and I think that was where it was. No, there it is. There we are. So I'm just about to malign the rat. Pretty soon we're going to find the rat's going to start chomping them. Our first passion fruit, which is still here, it's going well. That should darken up soon. I guess that's probably about 2 weeks away before it comes on. This stuff here, I can't remember what it's called, monkey something or other. It's a beautiful little thing. It's apparently a weed, maybe a noxious weed, but I think it's quite interesting. So it survives. Behind it we have the jasmine, which has very much died away. And somewhere in there is the bush rat, because it'll poke its head out in a minute and tease me. Okay, turning round, get back of my head. The fig tree, which gave us so many figs last year, it's had a very hard prune, not least of all because it grows rather big. If you can see the trunk there, you can see what we're potentially dealing with. This thing could be 4, 5, 6 times as high as it is at the moment if we let it go, and the roots will be invasive, so we're going to keep it under control. We had a big problem last year with some scale bug and some fungus, black fungus. So I sprayed it extensively and we'll be keeping an eye on it. But the canopy is closing over really quickly. A couple of daffodil bulbs aren't going to come to much. A potato that I threw in out of a joke. And there, for the fans of revolutionary France, Scarlet Pimpernel. Last year's tarragon, which has been heavily pruned back and is now coming on nicely. I was worried there, it wasn't tarragon, but yes, that's the tarragon. And then you can see an earlier sowing of carrots has come through and needs thinning out quite extensively before they start clamping stuff. Needs something I need to do when the chickens are out of action. Okay, and here's the roses. They had a very heavy prune and have benefited from quite a lot of soil conditioning. Not least of all 6 bags of horse droppings from the local what was it, circus last year that I went and picked up and have worked into the soil. So these roses have come on rather lovely. These will have a scent. There's a purple one that's gone that probably isn't going to produce much, and strangely we've got a white rose on the same as the red thing. This one at the back is some magnificent long stemmed blooms, all looking like they're going to come out. Some really good blooms on there, and we probably should have some really good colours out of them in possibly just days, to be honest. A little bit of aphid predation, can't have that, get off. Put that in there for you. There you go, you can be eaten by the fish. So we've got some daisies in there, we've got pyrethrum, which I've planted ostensibly to keep the flies away, which probably should have hit them with it. And some carnations along here, which I've planted from seed stock, similar to the one at the back. So you can see the one at the back has definitely done better in the hanging basket than here. And this is mugwort, which apparently is good for keeping bugs away from chicken coops. Probably should have put it closer to the chicken coop then. Last year's growth, or last year's acquisition, was this grapevine. It's a musket grapevine. You can just see what I guess is a fruiting body here. So last year it was only started at about 6 inches long. It put on quite a lot of growth through the year, but didn't actually have time to fruit. Now after a trim, this is all new growth in the last couple of weeks, and as I said, I think this is a fruiting body. I have absolutely a flowering body. I have absolutely no faith we will get any fruit off it, or any fruit would survive, but it will be fun to see. And there we go. Otherwise this is all turning into flowers basically. Here's a bit of a tidy up. Geranium's taken over. The aloe is working well.
Aloe vera.
Aloe vera, yep. Lavender's taking a bit of a pounding.
It's Barbecue we didn't want.
Barbecue we didn't want, doesn't work, which we rescued from a council clear up. I'll have to fix that, or at least move it. But the lavender is providing some really continual feed for the bees. Mainly the European honeybees, as opposed to our stingless. Our stingless bees, which we saw a moment ago flying around the passion fruit, like the passion fruit, but there's also some native trees along the fence line that they're really hovering around. And that's really the garden. Until we go down to the front area, where we'll go to now, unless I edit it and do it the other way around. And at the front we'll see the 2 beds we put in to grow some more vegetables. So to the front garden, these are the 2 vegetable beds that I bought and filled with the majority of that cubic metre of soil I said. A gross leased tomato plant, purchased from Bunnings with the intention of actually getting something in the ground early so we can start growing it. And these are the beetroot that I referred to earlier. This is the same beetroots, the same punnet of beetroots that had the stunted ones you saw in the shed. You can see why I am slightly disturbed that they have done nothing when these have obviously grown quite extensively, even though we are seeing some differentiation in their growth patterns, which again I'm guessing comes down to nutrient mix within imbalances within the soil. Here we have netted to basically keep the bush turkeys off, but also good things. We've got another Brussels sprout. You can see it's also keeping the caterpillars off because this doesn't have the predation of the one we saw in the back garden. The lettuce, some more carrots as ever, need them thinning out. These were planted before the other ones, and again I'm worried about the nutritional quality of this soil. That's interesting. It's a root system, where's that coming from? It could be the root system from here, in which case that's spread with quite a lot already. Some more beetroot, some perpetual spinach at the front, and the plan is all the seeds that we will see shortly up in the seed bank are going to be planted down here. Let me just go back along there, and we should turn this whole thing in here into a tomato feast area. Whether we eat them or whether the birds and the rodents eat them, we shall see. So upstairs to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. So here we are in the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Now these could turn out to be the best of the potatoes. These were planted after the ones downstairs and are looking by far the greenest. Soil was better quality potting mix was put in, and a mixture of added fertiliser. Also up here, these are the fabric bags that I spoke about. These are woven fabric and porous, so the roots will grow up to the edge of that and then stop. Here we've got one tall tomato, it's a 100 variety I think, and a beetroot seed. This onion bed here has really come on. These are again all grown from the cut bottoms of shop bought onions. Again they're getting to seed, and it'll be interesting to see what actually comes out of it. It is a forest of stems down here, and quite possibly limited room for growth. If nothing else, they come out as glorified spring onions with a little bit of really spicy rocket nesting at the back. And nesting over here is a chilli plant, 20 bucks from IKEA. This here on top of it is the Martha is the sweet potato growing area. Absolutely nothing is happening apart from the fact that the sweet potato is getting slimy. This is obviously we're not sure about whether it's a good sign or not. Geranium cutting that's taken. This is my pride bonsai. This is a Moreton Bay fig, which can grow up to about 30-40 metres in height, and so we're keeping that well and truly bonsai. And then inside here we've got all the seeds that we're bringing on with an intention to pot these out progressively. Primarily the idea is to put the tomatoes in to the pots freed up by the harvest of the potatoes in time to come. But we've got a bit carried away. We've got plenty of beetroots, we've got some more chilies coming through. We've got a peat plug there which has got a cucumber in. That's a capsicum grown from a seed that I harvested from a red capsicum we bought from the shop. Some dahlias down there, And this is a rose cutting. When I pruned the rose out the back that we saw against the fence line, I took a cutting, just pushed it into the soil, and very pleasingly it has started to sprout, bloom, not bloom, sprout. So with a little bit of sharp editing to try and keep runtime down, we come to the end of with a rather abrupt ending. That's the end of September for a month. Let's see what October brings. I hope you enjoyed and it wasn't too slow for you. Thank you.